Have you ever felt the weight of others' opinions on your shoulders? What if there was a way to release that burden and find peace within yourself, free from the constant need for validation? In today's world, where external expectations often dictate how we see ourselves, Buddhist philosophy offers us a refreshing and liberating perspective. It invites us to reconnect with our intrinsic worth, embrace personal growth, and cultivate resilience in the face of life's challenges. This video will explore the core teachings of Buddhist philosophy, guiding you through a journey of self-discovery and empowerment. By understanding the power of self-worth, accepting the limits of others' opinions, and focusing on growth rather than approval, we can unlock a life of true peace and fulfillment. 1. Recognizing the power of self-worth. How do you measure your value? Is it by the opinions of others, or do you draw your sense of self-worth from within? For many of us, self-worth is often contingent on external validation. Praise from others, accomplishments, or comparisons with those around us. However, Buddhist philosophy teaches that our true value exists independently of what others think of us. Our intrinsic worth is not determined by the fleeting approval or criticism of others. This realization is both liberating and empowering. Imagine how much more resilient we would be if we could recognize that our value does not hinge on someone else's perception of us. Self-worth is not something we acquire through validation from others. It is something we cultivate within ourselves. By building an internal sense of value, we create a strong foundation that is immune to the whims of external judgment. When we learn to rely on our inner sense of worth, we are less susceptible to the harsh winds of criticism or the intoxicating allure of praise. This inner resilience, shaped by Buddhist teachings, encourages us to remain grounded, knowing that our worth is intrinsic, constant, and unchanging. In the face of challenges, this foundation allows us to navigate life's difficulties with equanimity, without being thrown off course by others' opinions. The cultivation of self-worth becomes not just a mental practice, but a way of life that allows us to experience greater peace, confidence, and stability. 2. Staying strong when life gets tough. What if every challenge you faced was actually an opportunity for growth? It's easy to feel overwhelmed by life's difficulties, but Buddhist philosophy encourages us to see adversity through a different lens. Instead of succumbing to frustration or despair, we are invited to recognize that challenges are not roadblocks, but rather stepping stones for personal growth and transformation. In times of difficulty, the key is to remain anchored in calmness and acceptance. Buddhist teachings emphasize the importance of cultivating inner strength. Strength that does not come from controlling external circumstances, but from staying rooted in our inner peace and acceptance. When we can accept life as it is, without resistance, we open ourselves to the possibility of growth. Challenges become opportunities to practice patience, resilience, and understanding. Consider this. When life gets tough, what would happen if you focused less on the problem and more on how you can respond with strength, compassion, and mindfulness? Imagine how much more empowered you would feel, knowing that you have the ability to navigate even the most difficult situations with grace and composure. Another essential aspect of staying strong in difficult times is learning to treat others' judgments like passing clouds. Their opinions may come and go, but your inner journey remains constant. By focusing on your personal growth and internal peace, you shift the focus away from external judgments and back to your own process of self-discovery. 3. Understanding that opinions are often biased. Have you ever taken criticism personally, only to later realize that it was more about the other person's insecurities than your own shortcomings? One of the key teachings in Buddhist philosophy is the understanding that opinions are often subjective and biased. People's judgments are shaped by their own experiences, biases, and perceptions, and as a result, they do not always reflect an objective truth about who we are. Taking criticism personally can lead to unnecessary suffering. It can trigger feelings of inadequacy, self-doubt, and frustration. However, by practicing detachment and recognizing the subjective nature of others' opinions, we can free ourselves from this emotional burden. Criticism is not always a reflection of our worth, but rather a projection of the critic's own perspective and experiences. When we view criticism in this light, we can respond with greater clarity and wisdom. Buddhism teaches us to develop equanimity, the ability to remain balanced in the face of both praise and blame. This practice helps us maintain a sense of inner calm, regardless of how others may perceive us. It also encourages us to focus on our own path and progress, rather than seeking validation from others. By understanding that opinions are often biased, we can let go of the need for external validation and return to a place of inner peace. 4. Shifting your focus to growth, not approval. How often do you find yourself seeking approval from others? Whether it's at work, in relationships, or on social media, the desire for recognition and validation is a common human experience. However, Buddhist philosophy encourages us to shift our focus away from seeking approval and toward prioritizing personal growth. True fulfillment comes not from meeting others' expectations, but from growing as a person. When we focus on self-improvement, we find deeper satisfaction and meaning in life. This does not mean that we ignore others or become indifferent to their opinions. Rather, it means that we make our growth our primary goal. Criticism becomes a tool for learning, not a personal attack. It becomes a mirror that reflects where we can improve, rather than a judgment on our worth as individuals. Personal growth is a lifelong journey, and when we make it our focus, we find that the external approval we once craved becomes less important. Instead of seeking validation, we start to derive our sense of fulfillment from the progress we make within ourselves. This shift in mindset leads to greater peace, self-respect, and an authentic sense of purpose. 5. Finding validation within, not outside. Do you rely on others to validate your worth? The Buddhist teachings remind us that true peace and contentment come not from external recognition, but from self-acceptance. When we depend on others to validate us, we give away our power, placing our sense of self in the hands of those around us. This can lead to constant uncertainty, as others' opinions are ever-changing and unpredictable. Instead, Buddhism encourages us to cultivate self-respect, compassion, and inner stability. By learning to be our own source of comfort and reassurance, we become less reliant on others for validation. This does not mean that we isolate ourselves or disregard the opinions of those we trust, but rather that we develop a deeper sense of self-worth that is grounded in our own values and principles. When we can validate ourselves, we find that our sense of peace and well-being is no longer contingent on others' approval. We begin to trust ourselves more fully, and as a result, we become more resilient in the face of challenges. The more we practice self-compassion and self-respect, the stronger our inner foundation becomes, and the more stable our sense of self-worth becomes. 6. Accepting that you can't control what others think. Have you ever tried to manage others' perceptions of you? How did that work out? The truth is, trying to control how others perceive us is both futile and draining. Buddhist philosophy teaches us that we cannot control what others think or feel about us, and attempting to do so only leads to frustration and anxiety. Instead of focusing on what is beyond our control, we are encouraged to focus on what we can control: our actions, our values, and our personal growth. When we release the need to control others' opinions, we experience a sense of relief and freedom. We stop expending energy on managing perceptions and instead redirect our focus to living in alignment with our own principles. This acceptance of the limits of our control also allows us to let go of the burden of perfectionism. We stop striving for an unattainable ideal of how others should see us and instead embrace the reality of who we are. By doing so, we free ourselves from the anxiety and stress of trying to meet others' expectations. 7. Developing resilience to criticism. What would it be like if criticism no longer affected you? How would your life change if you could respond to criticism with curiosity rather than defensiveness? Resilience to criticism is a key component of Buddhist philosophy, and it involves responding to negative feedback with an open mind and a balanced heart. Rather than defending ourselves or internalizing the criticism, we are encouraged to approach it with curiosity and equanimity. Criticism is an opportunity to learn, not a reflection of our worth as individuals. When we practice equanimity, we stay balanced in the face of both praise and blame. This allows us to engage with criticism in a way that supports our personal growth rather than hindering it. By developing resilience to criticism, we become less reactive and more intentional in our responses. We start to view feedback as a valuable tool for improvement rather than a personal attack. This shift in mindset fosters greater emotional intelligence and self-awareness, enabling us to handle challenging situations with greater grace and composure. Setting boundaries and distance yourself from negativity. How often do you allow negativity to influence your mood and mindset? One of the most important aspects of protecting your peace is learning to set boundaries and distance yourself from negative influences, whether it's toxic relationships, negative media, or environments that drain your energy. It is essential to establish boundaries that protect your mental and emotional well-being. Buddhism teaches that setting boundaries is not selfish. It's an act of self-respect. By distancing ourselves from negativity, we create space for positivity, growth, and peace. Surrounding ourselves with supportive, uplifting people and experiences allows us to cultivate an environment that nurtures our inner peace and self-worth. When we practice setting boundaries, we send a message to ourselves that our well-being is important. We learn to prioritize our mental and emotional health, creating an environment that supports our personal growth and self-discovery. 9. Embracing your uniqueness. How often do you compare yourself to others? In a world that encourages conformity, embracing your uniqueness can be a radical act. Buddhist philosophy teaches us to celebrate our individuality and express ourselves authentically. Authentic self-expression leads to genuine connections, and it allows us to live a life that is true to our values and desires. When we stop comparing ourselves to others, we stop feeling the need to conform to external expectations. Instead, we honor our own path, knowing that our unique experiences, strengths, and perspectives are valuable. Embracing our uniqueness allows us to experience deeper fulfillment and connection, both with ourselves and others. This acceptance of our individuality also leads to greater resilience. By honoring our own journey, we become less susceptible to the pressures of comparison and competition. We begin to see the beauty in our own lives rather than constantly measuring ourselves against others. 10. Practicing mindfulness and letting go. What if you could observe your thoughts and feelings without being controlled by them? Mindfulness is the practice of being fully present in the moment, observing our thoughts and emotions without clinging to them or letting them dictate our behavior. Buddhist philosophy teaches that mindfulness helps us detach from judgments, expectations, and the need for control. By practicing mindfulness, we learn to let go of the need to constantly manage our thoughts and feelings. Instead, we observe them with awareness and acceptance, allowing them to come and go without judgment. This practice fosters a deep sense of peace as we release our attachment to external outcomes and focus on the present moment. Mindfulness also allows us to let go of the need for control. We begin to accept life as it is without trying to force outcomes or manipulate circumstances. This surrender to the present moment brings us greater peace, clarity, and freedom.